and welcome back to Regaining the Balance. This is your host, Matt, and today we're going to be looking into something very interesting called the Kuleshov Effect, which is an film editing effect that I think is a very telling technique that shows just how simple, quote unquote, mind control really is. And I'm going to be sharing this with you guys today. Just want to let you guys know that I actually went to film school and learned this in film school. And I thought this was really creepy when I first learned this. But then, as you get into more of the techniques of filmmaking, you realize that filmmaking is extremely psychological art form, which can be very powerful and can be good. It can be used for good, or it could be used for, not so good purposes. So let's always remember that. Just like everything, right? Like so many things I talk about, guys. So the first thing we're gonna do is I just wanted to show you this picture here from the artist Musha, who I actually have always loved his artwork, but this one here I found about a year and a half ago kind of disturbed me, mainly because of the coding in it. But it's the society. It's the Popular Society of Beautiful Arts, is what it says here at the bottom. And at the top here, it says, art will be taught to the people by projections, which I thought was a very telling thing. You have this guy here who is just kind of sheepishly looking into the lens, either that or somewhere else, but looks like the lens. And then she has a book, and then she has her little star on her forehead here, and in between, and right in the middle between that are these two circles, one with a church, one with a Greco-Romano Egyptian style building, I guess, which would mean government. Either this means like government and church, or this also could also very much be just like the pillars of the Phoenicians, one being wind and one being fire. So I think that was kind of interesting. But that's also very Masonic. If you look at some of the Masonic pictures as well, it's the same thing. They have the two pillars, and then at the top of the two pillars is the star in between them. So, take that what you will, but I wanted to point that out. So I think what we'll do first is that let's see here, we'll take a look at the Kuleshov effect. Okay, so here we go. This is the film, and then we'll read, and then I'll show you a second film, and then we'll read about the Kuleshov effect. Okay, so it's a silent film as well. Here we have a man. I'm not going to give you any. Here's the second Kuleshov effect video. That's the Kuleshov effect. Those are two movies that showed you something very simple, a man and juxtaposed by a bowl of soup, juxtaposed by a child in a coffin, and juxtaposed by a attractive woman on a divan. Okay, now these experiments were done very early on in the film industry, 1910s, 1920s. Although I would argue that filmmakers already kind of understood this, and montage was already being used to an extent by certain early filmmakers. So let's take a look at the Kuleshov effect real quick, so you guys get a really good understanding of how this is going to work. We have the Kuleshov effect is a film editing montage effect demonstrated by Soviet filmmaker Lev Kuleshov. Kuleshov. God, the Kuleshov effect. I keep saying Kuleshov. I'm sorry. Lev Kuleshov in 1910s and 20s. It is a mental phenomenon by which viewers derive more meaning from the interaction of two sequential shots than from a single shot in isolation. Kuleshov edited a short film in which a shot of the expressionless face of Tsarist matinee idol Ivan Mazhukny was alternated with various other shots: a plate of soup, a girl in a coffin, a woman on a divan. The film was shown to an audience who believed that the expression on Mozhukini's face was different each time he appeared, depending on whether he was looking at the plate of soup, the girl in the coffin, or the woman in the divan, showing an expression of hunger, grief, or desire, respectively. The footage of Muzhukni was actually the same shot each time. Vesvold Budovkin, who later claimed to have been the co-creator of the experiment, described in 1929 how the audience, quote, raved about the acting, the heavy pensiveness of his mood over the forgotten soup, were touched and moved by the deep sorrow with which he looked on the dead child, and noted the lust with which he observed the woman. But we knew that in all three cases the face was exactly the same, unquote. Kuleshov used the experiment to indicate usefulness and effectiveness of film editing. The implication is that viewers brought their own emotional reactions to the sequence of images, and then, moreover, attributed those reactions to the actor, investing his passive face with their own feelings. Kuleshov believed this, along with montage, had to be the basis of cinema as an independent art form. The effect has also been studied by psychologists and is well known among modern filmmakers. Alfred Hitchcock refers to the effect in his conversation with François Truffaut, using actor James Stewart as the example. Hitchcock, is in the famous definition of happiness interview, also explains in detail many types of editing. The final form, which he calls pure editing, is explained visually using the Kuleshov effect. In the first version of the example, Hitchcock is squinting. In the audience sees footage of a woman with a baby. The screen then returns to Hitchcock's face, now smiling. In effect, he is a kind old man. In the second example, the woman and the baby are replaced with a woman in a bikini. Hitchcock explains, "What is he now? He's a dirty old man." You see how easily that is changed. The shots are completely different from each other. They could be in different locations and not shot together whatsoever. But when you juxtapose an image with another image, but they know that you're going to make that connection by yourself. Okay, and I think that's very important to definitely point out, because the thing is that when you are investing his impassive face with their own feelings, as they say about the Russian actor here, who has an expressionless face. He's not smiling, he's not doing anything. But they put their own feelings and their own emotions onto the scene, okay? That's a very important point that I want to hammer down, because there's one of the reasons I do a lot of these sort of spirituality and various other books and psychology books and things like that, because I want to show people that, like, there is every single person in this world, everyone without exception, we all grow up as children learning things, okay, and experiencing life, and we pick up these reactions and these ideas, right, and these concepts, and we bring them with us, and they are part of what Jung refers to as the unconscious mind. And that unconscious mind does things all on its own. When you react to certain things, you don't even think about the reaction. One doesn't think about the reaction, it just happens. And a lot of times those reactions and those aren't necessarily good for us. And they cause a lot of trouble. They cause a lot of issues in life, and especially in relationships. But it's like when one understands, the value of, say, connecting with that spiritual side, quote unquote, doing meditation, prayer, whatever you want to call it, but it needs to be some kind of meditative type of thing. And finding that peace and being able to actually obtain real patience, things like that are not as easily affected by a person. But I just wanted to point this out, because this Kuleshov effect is very important. Kuleshov effect is very important because it illustrates just how easy it is to manipulate somebody into thinking something. All you have to do is juxtapose ideas with each other. So you think about literary way. Do you think about the news, and specifically newspapers? We'll do this with headlines. The mainstream media on the television itself does this in a masterly way with images and with let's say explosive kind of a language that is used specifically to enrage or to agitate the populace, and also by lying to them, and they craft these very intricate, really actually not so intricate, but actually these not so intricate ways of manipulating people. And this is how they do it right here, guys. It's the Kuleshov effect. Because they know that all they have to do is present X, Y, and Z, and you're going to put X, Y, and Z together and be like, yeah, that's this, right? Or not you, but no, I mean, people will do this. Many people who have caught on to these kind of things, and the line that goes on, don't necessarily believe it. But the thing is that we still all get caught up in it. And one example too, about how powerful this is memes. And and going back to the thing is, going back to the Kuleshov effect, is memes are nothing more than just a juxtaposition of images and ideas through usually texts, but sometimes it's just images versus images, which is the exact same thing here in a film. Okay, and this is how also in film, when you want to show someone as a powerful being, you show them at an angle underneath them, looking up at them. And then if you want to make somebody look weak, you take the camera and you bring it up, and then you look down at them. Okay, and that is a subconscious thing that people immediately understand without even thinking about it when they're watching a movie. And and those kinds of things are used literally all over the place. And it's all, I mean, when I say all over the place, I mean it's all over the place. And people like Edward Bernays, who, if I'm not mistaken, got his start doing his thing around the same time period, between the 1920s. And he used the same kind of psychological ideas to create his theories on public relations and all that other stuff, which is again nothing more than about brainwashing and mind control. And it's funny because you'll see even in an example in life how people will have like they'll have brand loyalty, and they're convinced that their brand of whatever the thing that they like and buy is like so much better than these other things. And it's like most of the time it's all just Kuleshov effect kind of stuff. They've been convinced to fight for their brand, and that's what they do. And it is the most hilarious thing, I think, in society when I see that. And it shows you just how far ahead the corporate power really is when it comes to the swaying of public opinion. And just really quickly back to the idea that like a lot of these concepts we learned as children, which is why people raised on TV are sometimes much easier to mess with, because they're raised on all these things. But good old Ignatius of Loyola, the creator of the Jesuit order, supposedly said this. It's disputed, but give me the child for the first 7 years, and I will give you the man. And I think that is a very interesting thing. They say it may have been attributed to him mischievously by Voltaire. Who knows? But the thing is that this comes back down to a lot of the psychological videos and the idea of spirituality and the idea of like understanding life as it is, and trying to work through it. And the thing is that we all grow up, and we all get our little ticks and our little reactions, our knee-jerk reactions, and which cause us to have all kinds of make terrible decisions in our lives, and especially in relationships and whatnot. And it's just one of those things. It's part of the human condition. And the Kuleshov effect, God, I can't say that right. The Kuleshov effect is just a wonderful, simple example of how easy it is, and how easy it is, and how it actually affects all of us. And the funny thing is that like you go out in life, and you will see, and how it works. And now that you kind of know the concept, if you didn't hear about this before, you will see this all over the place. You'll see it in billboards. You'll see it in commercials. You'll hear it in radio. Because again, it's all about the mind, right? And in minds, the only thing in a mind, the only thing that really matters is thought. And so all they have to do is implant plant the idea, water it a little bit with some juxtaposition, and then suddenly you think you have a flower of an idea. But really, it was just a design there for you. And the funny thing is like, and you see this as a possible example of the so-called terrible disease that is going around the world right now, and how they use specific words and they use specific images, and then what does it create but fear, right? And this is how they do things, and this is how you can look at all propaganda, especially war propaganda. Look at it in terms of the Kuleshov effect, in terms of juxtaposition of images and ideas, and realize that like that's the basis for like, I mean, when you're talking about communication in life with people, or communication with the powers be, with the masses, this is important. This is very important, and at least to me it is. And this is one of the things that helped me understand. It helps me understand like media in general, but messages. But it also helped me understand one other thing that's interesting is that it helped me to understand manipulative people, people who are out there to manipulate you in various ways. Maybe that's just because that's how they were brought up, because of their own manipulative parents, sister, brother, grandparents, who knows. But it all comes back down to the first 7 years of your life. Like you're taught so much garbage, and not intentionally. A lot of times it's unintentionally, but that kind of stuff sticks with you and becomes part of your personality. But it's not really your personality. This is why family traits. This is why families are so interesting, and why you have something that's very interesting as well when it comes to the psychology behind all this. Okay, guys, is that on a scientific basis here, you can have somebody who is adopted into your family that shares no genetic connection with you, yet because of the way that that family thinks and has an idea of life in the world, and the way that their habits are, i.e., they drink, or their eating habits, things like that, those adopted kids will often get the same, for some strange reason, the same quote unquote hereditary diseases or cancers and things like that than the family that they were adopted into. If you don't believe me, look it up, because there's definitely some interesting stuff out there in regards to that. But just to show you that things are all about the mind and or your spirit. This is, and honestly, like I'm not sure if I've said this before in other videos, but I'll say it here. But your mind is the only thing you really got. You can get everything taken away from you. Your body can become totally useless, and you still have a mind. I mean, people who have severe cerebral palsy, they can't barely move, but their actual minds are intact, and that's a reality. And the thing is, it's like, we take that for granted because we have so much stuff going on. We have to do this, we have to do that. We don't spend time like, planting the garden in our mind that we should be, and finding a little peace in it, and then being able to actually see things for what they are, like the Kuleshov effect. And that's one of the big reasons why, the masses of people out there who are sort of sleeping their way through life are so easily affected, and how they're so easily swayed, because this is all it takes, and all it takes is this: the juxtaposition of ideas, of images with text, of text, on other text, because again, it's just ideas juxtaposed with other ideas. And then you start to look at ideas of religion and things like that, and it's all the same thing. And it's the same thing with a lot of these secret societies and stuff like that. Like, they understand the psychology behind it, and like I've said in many other videos, so that's what's really behind what or what polytheism really actually represented. It's that idea that they're psychologically trying to explain the human condition, or using it to control you one way or the other. So, just throwing this out there as a quick video for you guys to take a look at. This is, I think, is very important for people to know, and I want my audience to be aware of the Kuleshov effect, because it's one of those things that's out there and is used against you. And like I say, it's like a tool, right? It's something that can be used for good, for evil, or for neutral purposes. If you're just telling a story and you're not really having any kind of axe to grind, then cool, tell your story and do it well. And because good films can really lock you in, as you'll know, because you'll have favorite movies which you like, and some of them make you emotional, and that's just the way it is. And this is why it makes you emotional, because of the Kuleshov effect, because they just use your present emotional connection with your life and life in general, and they tap into that. And that's the same way that they tap into people when they want to make them fear, or when they also want them to, you know, obey, so to speak. and or when they want them people to become angry so that they'll agree to do something that they would never agree to do otherwise. So let's just keep that in mind, guys. And down at the bottom here, I'm not going to read it because I'm just going to wrap this up here. But there were definitely quite a few people in the recent years who have done this, and there is definitely a correlation between this. And also, they did this with music, and there obviously is a correlation with the music as well. And I think all of us generally know that because in music, when filmmakers use certain types of scores on certain types of parts, it definitely enhances that part of the film. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it was informative. And if you did like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, hit the little bell button, all that good stuff. And share this with other people that you think might be interested in understanding what the Kuleshov effect is. Because frankly, it's extremely easy to sway people. And meme magic is the perfect example of that. So, just be careful of how your emotions are being toyed with, because that's how they get you. They get you by getting you all riled up, and then you think X, Y, and Z, and then you end up making lots of mistakes. So thank you very much for joining me today. Much love to all of you, and I will bid you a great day.